What's going on, folks? Ted from Immersion here, and bear with me here as my hotel room doesn't actually even have a desk. So I don't even have something to talk up against to kind of block sound. But Friday was yesterday, and that means it's a new Project Black Flag update. We also have a new design diary for this month. It's called Foundations. So I wanted to take some time and actually go through it as best I can because, I commit to doing, even though I'm away at a convention, I still want to make sure I'm putting out the content that you all know and come here for. So let's go ahead and jump over to the Cobalt Press website and we'll go ahead and go through this. Also, sorry if you can hear my computer fan. Apparently, it decided to ramp up. But, all right, so playtest packet number 2 for Project Black Flag has been available since last Friday. Lots of questions, so we asked our senior game designer, Celeste Konowich, to reveal her thoughts in a new design diary. Look for this as a monthly feature. We heard about this would be monthly. By the way, I have requested a potential opportunity to interview Celeste in an official capacity. I think I've been told April is when that can happen. So it is what it is. Hey all, my name is Celeste Konowich. I'm writing to give you an in-depth look at our design goals for Project Black Flag and what we can accomplish with playtest packet number 2. What we've learned. Some lineage and heritage options seemed overpowered / underpowered. We're using your feedback to rebalance playtest. This is from playtest packet 1. You want heritage options presented differently. We will use feedback as a lens to determine how information should appear in the next version of lineage / heritage options. I'm not entirely sure what they meant by presented, or what, I guess not Celeste meant, but what people have meant as presented differently. Maybe it just wasn't clear that they could, that you could choose any lineage and any heritage. I had heard that from a couple folks that they didn't realize you could mix and match. You are ready to let go of PC alignment. We're discarding alignment as a core element of character creation. So this one's kind of polarizing. I may do a separate video on this at some point, but alignment was a huge deal in older editions of D&D, but I think it was a huge deal because it was a fundamental, it drastically altered how you played your character, right? A great example I constantly go to is certain spells, using 3.5, again, my experience, right? There were certain spells in 3.5 that were tagged as evil, certain spells that were tagged as good, certain spells that were tagged as lawful or chaotic as well. And if you were like a good aligned character, you couldn't cast evil aligned spells unless you had some sort of really roundabout way to do it via feats or something. But for the most part, that was the case. So, in that instance, that was a fundamental way it affected your character. Right now, alignment in 5th edition feels to me largely like a holdover from older editions. But the only things that even really truly reference alignment are a very few minor things. There are some magic items that have, like the robe of the Archmagi, for example, right? It requires you to be of a certain alignment to be able to attune to it, but that again feels like a holdover. There are some magic items that are tied to attunement, and there may be like 1 or 2 monster features that force you to switch alignment, but for the most part, alignment, you could take it or leave it. So I'm okay with that. That may rub some people the wrong way. And I'd love to hear a really solid argument for keeping it, because as it stands right now, I think you could just throw it out. You don't want to choose between ability score increases and choosing a talent. This is already reflected in playtest packet 2. Let us know how you like our solution. This is an interesting one because I think we start to run into a power balance situation, right? So talents being Cobalt Press, Black Flags, replacement for feats. Again, seems irrelevant, honestly, to me to just change the name from talent, from feat to talent. It just, I guess you want to be separate and that different, and that's fine. I don't think it's necessary, but either way. And I just worry if you have the opportunity, that would be one way to truly separate yourself from 5th edition if improvements came online every 4th level and talents came on every 5th level or something like that, right? In theory, that would make it more like older editions, but it also would do a decent amount to separate you from base 5e. The only potential problem you encounter is if certain subclasses give you features at a certain level, and then that would allow you to then double up on something at a specific level. But because you are, in theory, designing part of this to be its own system, you would just need to make sure the monsters balance themselves to be able to handle the fact that your players are going to be able to get improvements as well, ability score adjustments essentially, in addition to talents or feats. As long as the monsters are geared that having that extra bit of power gives you, is okay, then I'm fine with that. But even when I think back to 3.5, right, you got an ability score adjustment every 4 levels and a feat every 3 levels. But ability score adjustments back then were only a +1. So the most you were ever going to get between 1 and 20 was a +5 to a specific stat. And feats were every 3rd level, so it was a little bit, you'd get feats more often. I understand the simplicity of combining the two. I think it makes sense. It's a part of the clean design of 5e. Like I said, as long as you make it you're not just going to be steamrolling monsters by having ability scores and feats, that kind of a thing. But I think, we saw how it was handled in the playtest packet 2 anyway. But my thoughts are just a general concept. It seems that people they don't want that, and I wonder if that is just a need for more power, or is it just like decision paralysis over too many options, or not wanting to have to pick one or the other. And then again, we have some talent options seem overpowered or underpowered, and we're going to use that to rebalance. Okay. So they're looking to rebalance the things that people consider overpowered or underpowered, a little bit of formatting, ditching alignment, and then adjusting, ability scores and talents as we saw in the playtest packet 2. So playtest packet 2, what's new? One of the loudest responses we've heard in the wake of playtest packet 1 was give us more. That's 100% true. So we loaded playtest packet 2 with elements that shape the foundation of our game. Here's a quick list of those. Luck replaced inspiration. Most of us agree that 5e inspiration falls flat. So after much noodling, we tried the luck mechanic as a replacement. It probably needs some tuning, but here's why we went this route. Luck allows players to fail forward. Everyone gets terrible turns where it feels like your dice are cursed and you can't hit anything. Maybe you can get a couple in a row. Ugh, enter luck points. Missing with an attack still hurts, but instead of grumbling and drumming your fingers until your next turn, you gain a resource that gives you something to look forward to next time. Luck isn't a job for the GM. This is also kind of nice, and I never really thought about it this way. Players track and maintain luck without GM intervention. We believe we've landed right here where we want to, with a low-maintenance system that helps every round of combat feel a little more fun. Yeah, technically the awarding of inspiration falls entirely on the dungeon master or the game master to do that. So this just takes one more little thing off of their plate and provides the player's agency for that. Luck is a building block. Luck has a little more going on than the various inspiration fixes floating around. A foundational resource like this allows us to dream about different ways it could be used going forward. The Touch of Luck talent is a preview of those kind of tricks, but we're scheming ways it might work with luck spinning subclasses, spells, magic items, and more. Okay, that's pretty cool, right? It is a new mechanic, but that doesn't mean that it has to live in and of itself. We saw, again, the Touch of Luck feat. It's interesting that you could, in theory, make a class, a subclass, or magic items or things that tap into that. Right? For example, the Luck Blade in Black Flag might be totally different than the base 5e Luck Blade, or things like that where you can use that. And that is actually pretty exciting to see how you could take this mechanic and expand upon it, because you really can't do anything with the 5e inspiration mechanic, like as far as subclasses and magic items. It just doesn't really warrant itself to that because it's kind of given out at DM whimsy. Whereas this is a more hard, crunchy statistic, so that sells me on it a little bit more. Luck is still a reward-based system. The one thing inspiration did well, and our replacement needs to give GMs a way to reward players for bold creative choices. We also like that it opens up another kind of reward in addition to XP and treasure for surviving encounters or adventure arcs. Note to playtesters, as we watch the buzz around playtest packet 2, we're seeing two big camps emerge about the name of the luck mechanic. One camp likes it, one camp wants a different name. If you have an opinion on the topic, please cast your vote in Playtest Packet 2 feedback form. It really matters. All right, so if you're one of the people that thinks you don't like luck as a nomenclature piece, what are your grit? It might be something. I don't know. That doesn't really make sense to me. I don't know what you would use in place of luck, because it does feel like a luck mechanic to me. But if you've got a better name, feel free to drop it there. All right, changes to classes. The Heart of Playtest Packet 2 was classes, Wizard and Fighter. Why only 8 levels? The answer, it's critical we get these right before we move into higher levels. We need input on the way we walk before we start talking about flying. So what changed? We spitballed a bunch of ideas in the playtest of the Fighter and the Wizard. It might be easy to miss what we changed, so here's a roundup. You choose whether your fighter is proficient with strength or dex saves. This kind of helps you choose because, there are strength or dexterity-based fighters pretty often. Last Stand replaces Second Wind. We think Last Stand scales better, and it's a reaction as opposed to Second Wind's bonus action. Fighters should be hard to kill, so we gave them a feature that lets them come back from the brink of death to save the day. I like Second Wind, but I think you could possibly get more use out of Last Stand in the long run. Martial Action replaces Fighting Style. Martial Action provides the fighters with an active tactical thing to do in combat, whereas Fighting Styles are basically static bonuses. Oh, that's true in some aspects. There are some fighting styles that let you do stuff, but okay. Multi-Attack is the new name for Extra Attack. It works the same, but we changed the name to help new players understand that it doesn't give you a separate attack action, just more attacks in one action. Extra Attack now also matches the naming convention used in a monster stat block. Okay, I can see that. Multi-Attack, yeah, I guess in theory, I never really encountered that, but if it is called the attack action, so Extra Attack, I could see the confusion there. I haven't really encountered it, but again, it being the same as what monsters use makes sense. Fighter subclasses are called disciplines instead of martial archetypes. It didn't feel cool enough that a fighter, ranger, and rogue subclasses in 5e are all called archetypes, so we changed that. And improvement replaces ability score improvement. Improvement has you increase an ability score by 1 and then choose a talent from the martial talent list. If you prefer simplicity, take the physical prowess trait, which again lets you bump up your ability score by another additional 1. Lets you increase your strength, dex, or con, replacing the current 2-score increase in 5e. So that was, again, that is what we talked about a little bit earlier, right? You get a +1 to an ability score no matter what, and then you could choose to make it a +2 by choosing the prowess kind of talent, or +1 and then a talent that lets you do a thing. So it kind of is a blend of both, but I am still curious in general about more so the mentality of people that are saying they don't want to choose. And is it just like the desire for players to be more powerful? I don't know. All right, Wizards. Wizards no longer have any weapon proficiencies. We did this to make the class feel more different from one another. Okay. Wizards now have a separate rituals known feature. This allows them to pick spells that are useful outside of combat without having to sacrifice good combat spells, which I do appreciate that. There are no class-specific spell lists. Wizards draw their list from the Arcane spell list, which all Arcane classes use. Wizards have a new feature called Magic Sense. This allows them to perceive magic without needing to cast a spell, which I do stand by. And this is something I've kind of added in my homebrew, in my games, is that like all Arcane casters, all casters can cast Detect Magic as a ritual. And I think I have all Arcane casters can cast Find Familiar as a ritual, like without having to prepare. It's just like a feature they have, because it made sense to me. Wizards gained their subclass at 3 instead of 2. Yeah, this is kind of what we're seeing again from 1D&D as well, the standardization of subclasses happening at 3rd level. I'm curious to see if this will happen for Kobold Press's clerics and things as well. And then once again, we have the improvement replaces ability score improvement. So what are we working on next? In all this excitement, let's take a breath, cozy up to a campfire, and whisper days to come. How are martial classes getting better? This topic is on a lot of minds for good reason. Here's what we're doing to bridge the power gap between martials and magic users. Working on a catalog of killer martial talents, including a talent to let any fighter dip into weapon master stunts. We imagine the martial talent list at least double the size of the magic talent list when all is said and done, and it should. Casters have plenty of choices in their spell catalogs. This lets Fighty type have their own list of options to mull over. Okay. Re-examining the way base weapons, equipment, and armor work to make them more exciting. That is needed. I think 1D&D seems to be potentially doing that as well, though we don't know. Making martials the champs of the bonus action. The martial action feature in the fighter class points this way, but that is just the first step. We are tinkering with scalable upgrades of features like martial action and limiting bonus action options available to full caster classes. Interesting. I never thought about that. What do you guys think about bonus actions lying more in the martial side of things, whereas like spellcasters will have less bonus actions, but they'll have obviously spells. What else? So much more all in time. Three big things: getting more base classes ready for playtesting, rebalancing playtest talents, and expanding talent lists, crafting encounter building tools. Okay, in closing, once more, we want to thank you, the playtesters, for taking time to provide thoughtful feedback and constructive criticism. Cobalt Press is a small team of real humans, or kobolds, fighting to make the game we love for the gamers we love. Those of you who see, hear, and help us succeed are the real big damn heroes. It's time to head back to the Warrens to work on the next packet. Until then, happy rolling, Celeste. So there you have it, folks. I do appreciate these design diary articles. We're planning to get these once a month, kind of after the playtest packet comes out. I think it does definitely help give us a little insight, because some things may be a little confusing or off-putting as to why a choice was made in some way. So I do appreciate that we can have these changes and kind of see what things are. So I do like that. And it was interesting to hear. And again, some of you were, I had heard, some of you I had concerned or had said that you were concerned with the fact that they were seemingly making casters better than marshals. And then they flat out here talk about how they're doing what they can to bridge that gap. And I mean, honestly, a bonus act, not saying that it will be entirely no bonus actions for casters, but let's say that was the case, right? Say if all full casters have no access to bonus actions. I don't think it's going to go that way, but let's just play it out. But marshals do. That's a whole extra thing you can do on your turn. Like, on top of me, like, I just hit them with my sword, whereas the spellcaster's blowing stuff up with crazy magical powers. I also have a bonus action to do something else that's cool. That could do an immense amount of help to separate the two and kind of balance them out. So, I don't know. I'm still, I saw the second playtest packet. We'll see what comes with the third one. I definitely have had some concerns with what we've seen. I think many of you have as well. And I have potentially some concerns with the timeline of Project Black Flag. But we'll see, because I think they are planning to launch the Kickstarter in May. And that seems a little soon to me. We'll see what comes in the third playtest packet. Maybe that'll change my mind completely. But, yeah, I don't know. We'll have to see. I'd rather have it be later and be better than be early and have to fix things with, like, patches. Especially because, like, if you're only going to have maybe 5 playtest packets out by the time you launch on Kickstarter, and you know it's not fully developed, I don't know, it kind of seems like a money grab to me, right? I mean, a lot of people are worried that 1D&D won't be ready for 2024, and it's going to have almost at least a year and a half worth of playtesting before 1D&D releases, and people are worried that that's not enough playtesting. Cobalt Press is going to try to do this in 5 months. I mean, I think it was publicly announced that they said they're going to do playtesting at Gen Con, right? Have like tables to do playtesting of Project Black Flag. Why wouldn't you wait to launch your Kickstarter until after the playtesting at Gen Con? Like, you're going to have tons of feedback and real world experience in the game to see what things work and what things don't. I feel like you'd want to wait to incorporate as much of that as you could before you launch Kickstarter. But I don't have control over any of that, but that's just my opinion. I don't know. I'm excited to see what's coming. I like to hear what they're working on and how things are going to be factored in. I want to see how they're going to change equipment, because I think while 5e equipment and armor and things is very simplistic, which I don't think is a bad thing, I think it could be improved upon. So anyway, let me know your thoughts and opinions in the comments down below. I'll see you all next time.